Stay tuned and let's take a look at some more of these McFarlane DC Multiverse action figures. Pow and welcome back to the channel, Dan Who Reviews. As always, my name is Dan W. Make sure you are following me on Instagram at It's Dan Who. And you can also hit that join button and become a channel member. Quite simply show some love or join the members club. Much appreciated. Today we are taking a look at some more of the McFarlane DC Multiverse action figures as I sort of round out my Bat family and the evil Dark Knights version of the Batman squad. So as you can see on the table, I have 3 of the 4 from this particular wave. I've got Robin, Batman, and then the Drowned. I am missing the Red Sun Superman, as I've chose not to get that figure, as it's not a particular version of Superman that I need for my display in the collection I'm building. Instead, I opted in the budget to go for the Batcycle, which obviously goes with the death metal version of Batman at the back there. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing how he sits on this. I think it's going to make for a very nice display piece. So I'm going to open all of these up in this review and just talk amongst them as I do. So very excited about that. So as I said, I've got the Damian Wayne version of Robin. So it's the first Robin we've got out of these multiverse figures. So I'm hoping he scales nicely with some of the Bat family that I've already got. And of course, we've got the Drowned, which again, the negative 11 Earth version of Batman where sexes are reversed and he's Aquaman, and I love that whole concept of the Dark Knight versions of Batman. And again, I've got the whole squad now, so I'm definitely going to be having a look at her compared to all of them. And then of course in the middle we have the death metal version of Batman to go along with the Batcycle. So yes, looking forward to these. Let's get them open and let's start off with the man himself, shall we? Batman. So starting off with this death metal version of Batman, as you can see, same old McFarlane packaging. He fills out the box quite nicely, to be fair, with his big leather jacket, and he's holding his Grim Reaper style scythe. No other accessories. He does have the trading card and the stand note in the box. So yeah, overall very nice. On the back we have that image from the comics of the death metal Batman, as well as some other figures in the McFarlane line. There we get the death metal logo on the side and the Batman, but let's get them open. Here we have our first look of Batman out of the box, and again the accessories are the stand and the trading card, so he can stand on his own, doesn't need that at all. Trading card is a nice touch. I like that McFarlane do this, because if you want to learn a little bit about the character, you can by pausing it now. So I like that. It's a nice touch that McFarlane do. I hope they keep doing it. But yes, the figure itself, bravo, looks great for what it is. Now, the one disappointing thing for me when it comes to McFarlane isn't the articulation, it's the lack of accessories and options when it comes to posing these figures. So we don't get any interchangeable hands, we don't get any interchangeable heads. So maybe we're spoilt by other lines because our expectations are high, but that does disappoint me, that forever this Batman will always have this facial expression, for example, or always going to have his hands in this way. I can't get fisted hands or open palm hands or throwing batarang hands. You know, like, it would be nice to have the display options, but yeah, for what the figure is though, once you get this posed up on the shelf, it does look very impressive. And for this guy in particular, I'm going to have him on the Batcycle. So as long as he's going to look good on the Batcycle in a nice pose, that's how he'll live on my display. But yeah, McFarlane's strongest point is definitely the sculpt work on these figures. So let's zoom in and take a closer look. Starting off at the head sculpt, I do really like it. Again, I said earlier, interchangeable heads with different expressions would be great, like an angry Batman or an open mouth Batman. But if you're only going to get one head, this is the one you want it to be. The sort of slightly confident, smirking sort of grimace Batman. I like it. I like the sort of 5 o'clock shadow you got there at the bottom of the chin as well. The square chin, jaw. Yeah, I like it a lot with the white eyes. I think this is probably one of the better Batman head sculpt they've done so far. And it may seem like a small head compared to the body, but it's because he's wearing these big, heavy metal jackets. It seems like a small head, but the jacket's very nice as well. You can see the spikes on both the shoulders. Swing it all the way around. You can see these elements of like bat wings or whatever sculpted into the softer jacket. On the top of the arm, you've got all these spikes. Moving down to the gauntlets, so the wrists, of course, you've got these sharp silver spikes, and even on the actual hands himself, on the actual wrist, I don't know if it will show you very well, but he's got spikes on the actual hands. And again, interchangeable hands would have been great, maybe fisted hands or open palm hands, whatever it may be. But for a Batman who's going to be riding a Batcycle, I don't mind that we've got these C gripping hands so we can at least hold the handles nicely. So no complaints from me on there. The other hand is obviously holding his scythe, So there's the Scythe, very Grim Reaper-esque, if you will. A couple of different shades of silver up here on the blade, and then the actual staff itself is just all brown with these wraps and whatnot around it, but still nicely done. And again, there's the other arm. But yeah, all this sculpted detail is very, very nice. Moving on to the chest, you can see the actual Bat logo there in the black on the grey, which is probably my favourite sort of colour palette for Batman. I do like the black and greys. Moving down to the bout, you've got the silver bout with the skulls and the Bat logo and these soft chains as well, so they don't hinder the articulation. But again, that's very death metal, and I like the design of the suit there. Moving down to the feet, the legs even, if you will. So on this side of the leg, you can see my actual knee pads came out, which is a little bit annoying. It's not a big deal. I'm sure I just need to glue it back on, but I don't think that's meant to come out. But it does sort of prod back in there. And you can see they've actually got a thigh swivel hidden in the design of these boots with all these sort of wraps around. So there is a swivel there at the top of the thigh, which is a nice touch. I know people were complaining about that on McFarlane figures. And then the boots are a nice touch with these spikes and all these wraps and buckles and whatnot. And then again, I don't like the joints, never have liked the joints here on a McFarlane figure with the ball there and the foot attached, but I can live with it, I can live with it. And then the jacket, again, all these details, these buckles hanging off, and all the buckles are painted separately as well, which is nice. They could have just left that black, but they didn't. They painted them silver, so they stand out a little bit more. And even the straps on this side, where they're meant to be attached to, are all attached there as well. And again, the bat sort of wings on the top of the jacket. Just overall people, really nice, dark, death metal design for Batman. And again, if you get imposed up on this Batcycle, you're going to be impressed. So again, articulation is what you're going to want for this type of figure. Let's be honest, the arms go all the way up. He has a double jointed arm and elbow, and that's pretty good. Like, you can't complain, that's pretty good. So the arm will go 90 and it will spin all the way around, hindered by the soft rubber, but the rubber is soft enough you can still get plenty of articulation. There's a lot of space in there for it to move around. There is articulation on the chest there, you can see, decent. You can swivel, of course, at the top of the diaphragm. As I said, the legs will go out decent amount so we can sit on the bike. There is a swivel at the top of the thigh. Legs go up, double jointed knee, but only goes about that much. There is a toe pivot as well, or toe hinge, and then the ankles and stuff you can manipulate the way you can all McFarlane figures. So I think for what we're going to want for this guy, we're going to be able to get him in the poses we want to get him in, if that makes sense. So again, no crazy ACBA, but enough to get him in a very nice pose for your display. So this guy for me is going on the Batcycle. So let's have a look at the Batcycle. So a quick look at the Batcycle packaging. So standard McFarlane colours, as you would expect, just a little bit longer now because we've got a bike inside. The bike looks very impressive as well, and you can see a trading card at the back there, which is a nice touch. Spin it around to show some more figures in this wave, of course, as well as a comic image of the Batcycle. But yes, overall, looking good. Standard, what you'd expect, but let's get it out. How? So here we have the Batcycle out of the box, looking very nice, I must admit. And it comes with its own unique trading card, which is different than the one that just come with the Batman previously as well. So it has its own write-up on the back. So if you want to learn more about the Batcycle, go ahead and pause it now. Beautiful. But I want to take a closer look at this bike and also see if Batman sits on it. But it definitely rolls, I can tell you that much. Now, firstly, I wanted to point out on the tyres, the treads are actually in the shape as a bat, which is very nice. You can see the sort of silhouette of a bat. And the wheels do spin. They're made of like a rubber, nice touch. And then if we have a look at the actual head, you can see it's like the skull of a bat with its mouth wide open. There's its big jaw open. Now, in the comic, there is a little red tongue that comes out of here. So I guess the only thing that's missing from the actual design in toy form is that red tongue that comes out under the jaw above the tyre. But I can forgive it. The lights, of course, are the eyes of the bat, which are a nice touch. And we get the ears with the swirly effect inside, as well as a sort of rib cage, if you will, and then a spine on the back. A little gap there for the seat, of course, and then more bones on the back. And then you get all this sort of mechanics and pipes and whatnot, all very nicely done. Not a lot on the bottom, but that's fine. And as I said, it does roll, no problem at all. It looks like it sits flush on the floor, and you definitely don't need a kickstand because it will rest, no problem at all. But it doesn't stop it from the wheels spinning. You can see the treads there on the back as well are also the shape of a bat, which is a nice touch. There's the exhaust or whatnot on the side again. Again, the tone, like the mechanics on here are really nice, and they have tried to put a bit of wash in there. It's definitely like a grey or a gunmetal with some sort of shading on it, and there are some nice details. There's the Bat logo there, you get a fan and an engine and whatnot. I'm definitely not a biker guy, but I know this is similar to what a bike would be, right? Sort of. The Bat logo is also in the actual wheel as well. I don't know how well you can see that, but the Bat silhouette is in there. So yeah, I love this. It just looks, as I said, very death metal, but it's just a bike. We need a Batman to sit on it, so let's try that, shall we? So I'm sure for a lot of you, like myself, your number one concern was, will Batman actually sit on the Batcycle? As you wasn't too sure with that big jacket how it would work, but let me reassure you, it does very nicely. I think for a display, this sits very well and definitely going to stand out amongst your Batman figures so far. We don't have anything like this. This is very unique, quite a modern storyline in the comics. So let me spin it around and I'll show you what I mean. So you can see the jacket actually has a slit in it, so the rubber jacket will sit over the cycle, so you can get Batman flushly sitting on the seat. And again, he can hold the handlebars no problem at all. I would recommend heating them up because the C grips are quite stiff. He can hold it with both handlebars, but of course I want to get him holding his Scythe still. So for me, it's not about, I'm not going to be playing with my Batman on the floor, but he can obviously ride it, no problem. For me, it's about getting him in a cool sort of pose for the shelf to have a unique death metal Batman for the display. And I think you can definitely do that. Obviously, you can manipulate the articulation, how you want to get him posed up, but quite simply, will Batman sit on the bike? The answer is yes. So bravo, this is going to make for a very nice display piece. I'm very happy I went for the Batcycle to go along with this Batman, as I've got many Batmans on the shelf, but have I got any sitting on a Batcycle that's made out of bat bone? No, I don't. So bravo, McFarlane, for doing it. And yeah, I think you've done a great job. Very nice. And real quick before we move on, here we have Batman compared to a couple of other versions of McFarlane Batman figures. And some people hate that we're getting tons of Batman, but I don't really care. I quite like building these unique collections of different versions of Batman. And here we have 3 examples. All look very nice, and I stand by my statement. I do think the head sculpt on this new death metal Batman is definitely the best Batman head sculpt we have so far from McFarlane. Next up, let's take a look at the boy wonder himself, Robin. And this is the Damian Wayne version of Robin, Batman's son. So I'm happy we got this version of Robin, as we've already got Dick Grayson as Nightwing and Jason Todd as Red Hood. So it makes sense to get the first Damian Wayne as Robin to go along with our Bat family, so you can have them all on the same shelf. Now, he doesn't fill out the box as much as some of the previous figures, so hopefully he scales with Batman, but we do get some weapons there in the box as accessories, as well as the trading card and the stand as well. If we spin it around onto the back, we're getting a picture of Damien from the comics, and what I like is that in the reflection of his Scythe weapon, you can actually see the rest of the Teen Titans. Is that a tease that McFarlane are going to give us the Teen Titans in figure form? We shall see. I hope they do. And on the bottom here, we get a list of some of the figures that actually are already out from McFarlane. But without further ado, let's get Damien open. So here we have Damien out of the box with everything he comes packed with. And as you can see, he has his sword in his hand, his 2 throwing stars, and then the trademark stand and trading card with all McFarlane figures. So he doesn't need the stand, he will stand on his own. And if you want to learn a little bit more about Robin, if you didn't know who Damian Wayne is, of course, you can pause it now. Very nice, but I want to take a closer look at Robin. I want to see if he scales with some of the Batman figures we've got previously. I want to see if he can hold these weapons, but so far, so good. According to the card, this is Damian Wayne Robin from Teen Titans Rebirth in 2016. So it's a very comic book style aesthetic to the character design. And to be fair to McFarlane, I think they've executed it very well. If we got the rest of the Teen Titans in this sort of style, it would make for a great display. Because when it comes to sculpt work, you know McFarlane don't let you down. So they may let us down in other areas, and we'll look at that in a minute. But just at the sculpt work, as I said, all these pieces here, spout, the R, even the collar, moving down to the legs, the knee pads, the laces, all separate sculpted pieces. And I have to admit, just him standing there as is looks like a great figure. Some people may not like the hard cape, but for someone like me who's just going to have him standing on the shelf, I don't mind it just sort of sweeping to the side. Now, as I said, it may let us down in other areas. So arms Only a single jointed elbow, I'm afraid, but he can get it past 90, so I'm not going to complain too much. And then the shoulders are what you would expect. You can get him swinging all the way around at a sort of bicep swivel there. And then the wrists are as you would expect, just in and out, but you can manipulate them a little bit. Now, there's no waist articulation at all, no ab crunch. You can't bend forward, you can't bend back. No articulation in the West. There's not even a waist swivel, like so. That's really bad. For a character like the Crow Robin could articulate and crunch all the way forward. This Robin, completely solid at the waist. So no leaning forward. For an agile, acrobatic character like Robin, really disappointed we ain't got no crunch at all. But again, it looks great. You just can't pose it up. So the ACBA community are not going to like this. Moving down to the legs, you can see the knees. Again, only a single knee. Only a single knee, and then the ankles are what you would expect from McFarlane. You get a little bit of it, and they're hidden a bit more because he's a smaller character. But yeah, there is a toe joint though. No ab crunch, but there is a toe joint again. So for someone like this Robin, you're going to be able to get him in some poses, like some, but not the crazy sort of acrobatic poses that Robin could get into in the comics. So there's a compromise there. So the compromise is design over articulation. Now, for me, I don't hate that because I'm buying my McFarlane figures to be posed up and just live on the shelf. But again, people who want to take pictures and ACBA are not going to be happy. Now, he only comes with one set of hands, but he can hold both his weapons. So there's his big sword. And let's take a closer look at the sword. I'm assuming this sword is like from the League of Assassins or something to do with the comics. But there we go. Silver and gold, looks decent. And he can hold it in two hands as well. You've got to finagle it a little bit. Obviously, someone out there can get it posed up better than me. But if you just want Robin holding the sword with two hands, you can definitely do that. So no complaints from me on there. Now, I may have complaints when it comes to the throwing stars because obviously no interchangeable hands. And it looks like Robin has like two trigger fingers. So how's he going to hold the throwing stars? Seems like you may have to sort of get them in between the fingers. So I'm going to try that off camera and see how I get on. So I've managed to get Damien holding both of his throwing stars. You sort of have to manipulate it in between the trigger finger, if that makes sense. Sort of just squeeze it in there. But he holds them nice and tight. And if you wanted to get him posed up with the throwing stars, that's definitely something you can do. And again, he can get into some decent poses even with the limited articulation. So yeah, I just want him to look good standing with the Bat family. So let's see if we can make that happen. So here we have Damian Wayne Robin compared to Dick Grayson, Nightwing, and then Batgirl. I think he scales pretty good in comparison to these two. Definitely Batgirl is too tall, but in regards to Dick Grayson and Damian Wayne, I think the scale is pretty good. I don't have the Jason Todd Red Hood. I want to get it, I'm just waiting for that single release version to hit the UK because I definitely want to add him to my Bat family. So if you have the Red Hood, then definitely hit me up. So yeah, I think Batgirl's a little bit too big, but I do think the lads scale pretty well together. Next up, the most important comparison is, of course, Robin compared to Batman. So here we have two different versions of McFarlane Batman, and I do think he probably scales best with this version over here. This 1000 Comics version, his head's a bit too small. Like the proportions on this guy are all wrong. Definitely works better over here. But I do think Damien's head's a little bit big when you compare it next to Batman. But still, McFarlane are all over the place with the character designs and where they come from. So it's really hard to sort of build a display that is flush in regards to scale. And for someone like me, that's very important. So a little bit frustrating. The figures look great, but it's really hard to scale them up for display. And most importantly, if Batman wants to take his son out on a nice bike ride, that's something you can definitely do because Damien here fits on the back of the bike. And last but certainly not least, let's take a quick look at Batman from Earth -11, which is of course the Drowned, the last figure we need from McFarlane to actually complete the Dark Knight's Metal evil versions of Batman team. It's crazy that we're getting that team before we actually get a generic Justice League, but I'll talk about that as we open her up. So there she is in the box, nicely posed. She comes with a Triton, and then you get the card and the stand, spin around, and you will see a comic book image of the character. So as I said briefly, in this negative universe, the sexes are switched, and Bruce Wayne becomes Aqua Woman, essentially, because it's Barbara Wayne, maybe? I will read the card and we shall find out. But yeah, let's do that, All right, now, so here we have the Drowned out of the packaging, and she actually may need the stand she comes with, because it seems like she has one leg bigger than the other, and it was really hard for me to just get her to stand up straight. But there she is standing. She also comes with a card, so as I said, let's learn a little bit about her. I mistakenly called her Barbara Wayne, because I knew the roles were switched, but she's actually Bryce Wayne, and in that universe, she splices her DNA with that of an Atlantean, and becomes this hybrid of sort of Aquaman and Batman in that universe. But yeah, honestly, pause it now, read all about her, and yeah, very interesting character. I love the concept of all these evil versions of Batman. But yeah, let's take a closer look. Taking a closer look at Bryce, you can see she's got this sort of sculpted scar on the side of her sort of zombie sort of grey skin, and then she's got like this red laser eye patch over this brown cowl. Now I'm assuming something happened in the comics, that's why all this is here. I just am unaware. She's got the bat medallion there, the logo on. Her hair's all flicked up because you've got to imagine that she's floating in water right now, so her hair would obviously float in the background. Sort of a green corset with brown sort of leather over it. She's got like a seaweedy style skirt. That's the only way I can sort of explain it, but this is made of a sort of soft rubber, so it shouldn't get in the way. She's got like a black jacket with green gloves, and then sort of black trousers with these big boots on over the top. So as I said, the sort of seaweed skirt's not going to hinder the articulation. You get a leg all the way back just through the skirt, and there is a double joint on the knee, goes about that much, and there is a double joint on the elbow. And to be fair to McFarlane, the double joint on the elbow is pretty good. Like, you can't ask for more than that, can you really? So the articulation on the arm, no problem. Doesn't seem to be any waist movement again, just like Robin. Very sort of, they sort of go for a nice sculpt. Don't get me wrong, it looks great, but no articulation up there at all. The legs will go forward and back, as I've already showed, and they will go out side by side, and then the feet are what you would expect from McFarlane figure with that ball above the ankle. So yeah, again, the figure does look great. Get her posed up, whether she's on a flight stand or what, and she's gonna look great. For me, like, I'm not super familiar with the Drowned. I just know she's a part of that sort of Dark Knight's metal team, and I obviously wanted that whole team for a cool display. So I've been buying all the figures in that sort of team across all these different waves, so I can build this sort of really nice epic display. Here she is with a Titan's not the right word, is it? Trident is the right word. All gold, gold, very nicely sculpted at the top, all the way down, and again, a bit pointy, and she can hold it slightly. It's like the hand's not tight enough, if you see what I mean. Like, it slides all the way through. Like, if I put it there, it will slide out. So yeah, and then this hand is sort of more of a grabby hand, so she's not going to hold it there. So yeah, interesting. But I do like the character design. She's going to fit in with the team. That's the most important part. I've just got to decide how I want to pose her up. But yeah, the Drowned. For a quick comparison, here we have the Drowned compared to a Batman, and then another female figure from the DC Multiverse, which is Batgirl. And she does stand at about the same height as Batgirl, which is both a little bit smaller than Batman himself. So yeah, not bad. Now, obviously, I want to show off the Drowned compared to the rest of the Dark Knight's Metal Evil Negative World Batman team. However, I'm going to save that for a separate video, as this video is running a little bit long, and I do think that's worthy of its own video in itself, because that team is very unique, and we've got the whole team now in figure form. So yes, stick around for a part 2 where I'll be going through the whole of the Dark Knight's Metal Evil Batman team. Now, I have the Drowned. That team is complete in figure form. But for today, the Batman, the Batcycle, and Robin are very nice figures. As long as you're not super picky about articulation, they're going to look great on your shelf. So you let me know what you think in the comments below, as always. And if you want to support the channel, then please hit that subscribe button. Much appreciated. And if you do want to support the channel a little bit more, you can hit that join button and become a channel member. Simply show some love, or join the members club and be a part of my live streams every month. Thank you very much. As always, my name is Dan W. Follow me on Instagram at It's Dan Who, and I will see you on the next one.